It was an ordinary Monday in Silicon Valley. The morning sun filtered through the steel and glass skyline, casting long beams of light onto the busy streets below. Programmers, executives, and dreamers alike shuffled into their offices, heads down, minds focused on the endless grind of innovation. But within the sleek walls of Zenith Corp's towering headquarters, something extraordinary was brewing, something no one in the tech world could have predicted. James Carter, the visionary founder of Zenith, sat in his private corner office, his fingers lightly drumming the polished wood of his desk. To anyone passing by, he appeared calm, perhaps even thoughtful. But the truth was, James was on the brink of a decision that would send shockwaves through Silicon Valley. His next move would challenge not just one company but the industry's most powerful figure, Elon Musk. For years, James had been building Zenith quietly yet deliberately. It wasn't as flashy as Musk's SpaceX rockets or as sensational as Tesla's electric vehicles, but Zenith was a rising star in its own right. Known for cutting-edge AI systems and groundbreaking renewable energy solutions, the company was quickly becoming a household name. And James? He was the kind of leader people admired, brilliant but grounded, innovative yet practical. He had a vision he wasn't willing to compromise, no matter the stakes. That Monday began like any other. The office buzzed with energy as employees sipped their coffees, typed away at their keyboards, and shuffled through meetings. But behind the scenes, whispers floated through the halls. Something was different. Something big was happening. "Have you heard the rumor?" one marketing assistant whispered to her colleague near the coffee machine. "What rumor?" "They're saying James turned down Elon Musk." "Like, the Elon Musk?" The second assistant nearly dropped her coffee. "No way. Why would anyone do that?" "I don't know, but it's true. Apparently, Musk made an offer, and James refused." The rumor spread like wildfire. By mid-morning, it was all anyone could talk about. Teams huddled in quiet corners, speculating wildly. Some thought James must have lost his mind. Others believed he had a secret plan. But no one, not even Zenith's top executives, knew the real story. James, meanwhile, remained tight-lipped. His closest advisors had urged him to reconsider Musk's proposal. "It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity," they had said. "Imagine what we could achieve with Musk on our side." But James had listened quietly, his expression unreadable. When they finished, he had simply nodded and said, "I need time to think." Now, as the hours ticked by, the weight of his decision pressed down on him. He turned his chair to face the floor-to-ceiling windows, gazing out at the sprawling city below. From this height, everything seemed small, manageable. But James knew the reality was far more complex. Turning down Musk wasn't just a bold move, it was a gamble. For a moment, he allowed himself to think back to where it all began. 10 years ago, Zenith had been little more than an idea scribbled on a napkin in a tiny cafe. James had poured his heart and soul into building the company, sacrificing sleep, social life, and even his health at times. He had faced countless challenges, funding hurdles, skeptical investors, and fierce competition, but he had never wavered. Now, Zenith was a global player, poised to revolutionize the tech world. So why, then, had he said no to Musk? The answer was simple yet complicated. James believed in Zenith's mission. He believed in the power of collaboration, but only when it aligned with his values. Musk's proposal, though lucrative and promising, came with strings attached, strings that James wasn't willing to accept. He thought back to their meeting a few weeks earlier. Musk had arrived in typical fashion, brimming with confidence and ideas. "James," he had said, leaning back in his chair, "you and I could change the world together. Think about it, Tesla's infrastructure combined with Zenith's AI. We'd be unstoppable." James had listened carefully, nodding at the right moments. Musk's pitch was compelling, no doubt about it. But as the conversation went on, James couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Musk's vision, while impressive, didn't quite align with his own. And the terms of the partnership? They left little room for compromise. By the end of the meeting, James had made up his mind. "I appreciate the offer, Elon," he had said, his tone measured but firm. "But I don't think this is the right fit for Zenith." Musk's expression had been a mix of surprise and amusement. "You're turning me down?" he had asked, a hint of incredulity in his voice. "I am," James had replied, meeting his gaze. "But I wish you the best." The memory lingered in James's mind as he sat in his office, staring out at the city. He knew the decision would raise eyebrows. He knew people would question his judgment, perhaps even his sanity. But deep down, he also knew it was the right choice. By lunchtime, the buzz around Zenith's headquarters had reached a fever pitch. Employees exchanged glances, wondering if the rumors were true. Some admired James's courage, while others feared the fallout. Could Zenith really afford to say no to Elon Musk? James, however, wasn't worried about the short-term consequences. He was thinking long-term, as he always did. He knew that success wasn't about following trends or appeasing powerful figures. It was about staying true to your vision, even when the odds seemed stacked against you. As the afternoon wore on, James called a meeting with his leadership team. He needed to address the rumors before they spiraled out of control. When the team gathered in the conference room, the air was thick with tension. All eyes were on James as he stood at the head of the table, his hands resting lightly on the edge. "I know you've all heard the rumors," he began, his voice steady. "And I won't deny them. Yes, Elon Musk approached us with a proposal. And yes, I turned it down." A murmur ran through the room, but James raised a hand, silencing it. "I understand this decision may come as a shock. But I want you to know that it wasn't made lightly. Musk's offer was tempting, no doubt. But it didn't align with our values or our mission. And as your leader, I refuse to compromise on either." The room fell silent. Some faces reflected confusion, others admiration. But one thing was clear, James's words carried weight. As the meeting ended, James felt a sense of resolve. He didn't know what the future held, but he was ready to face it head-on. And so, an ordinary Monday in Silicon Valley became anything but. Behind the glass walls of Zenith Corp, a bold decision had been made, one that would set the stage for a story the world wouldn't soon forget. James's decision quickly became the focal point of whispers not just within Zenith but across Silicon Valley. In the ever-competitive tech world, saying no to a figure like Elon Musk wasn't just bold, it was unheard of. Deals with Musk weren't simply partnerships, they were guarantees of global attention, instant credibility, and limitless potential. Yet James had walked away, and the world wanted to know why. By mid-afternoon, the first news articles began to surface. Headlines ranged from curious to critical. "Zenith rejects Musk, a risky gamble or strategic genius. The one company brave enough to say no to Elon." Inside the rumored rift between James Carter and Elon Musk, social media erupted with speculation. Some commentators praised James's audacity, calling him a visionary willing to stand apart from the crowd. Others accused him of arrogance, predicting that Zenith would suffer irreparable damage. The narrative quickly spiraled, with influencers, journalists, and tech enthusiasts dissecting every known detail about the proposal and James himself. Back at Zenith, James observed the unfolding frenzy with a quiet calm. He knew better than to get swept up in the noise. Instead, he focused on what mattered most, keeping his team motivated and ensuring Zenith stayed on course. Later that evening, James called for an all-hands meeting. The company's largest conference room buzzed with nervous energy as employees filed in. The room was packed, and those who couldn't find seats stood along the walls or crowded near the doors. Everyone wanted to hear directly from James. When he entered, the chatter died down instantly. Dressed in his signature no-nonsense attire, a crisp white shirt with rolled-up sleeves and dark slacks, James carried an air of quiet authority. He walked to the center of the room, glanced briefly at the crowd, and began to speak. "I know there's a lot of speculation right now," he said, his voice steady but warm. "And I want you to hear the truth directly from me. Yes, Elon Musk approached us with a proposal. It was ambitious, it was exciting, and it was tempting. But it wasn't the right fit for Zenith." A murmur rippled through the room, but James continued, undeterred. "I didn't make this decision lightly. I considered every angle, every possibility. And at the end of the day, I realized something important: success isn't about attaching ourselves to big names or flashy deals. It's about staying true to who we are and what we stand for." He paused, letting his words sink in. The room was silent, every eye on him. "When I founded Zenith," he continued, "I did it with a clear purpose. I wanted to create technology that improves lives, empowers people, and respects the planet. That mission has guided us every step of the way, and it will continue to guide us. Saying no to Musk wasn't about ego or fear, it was about protecting our vision. And I promise you, the best is yet to come." The room erupted into applause. Some employees looked visibly relieved, while others appeared inspired. James had done what great leaders do: he had turned uncertainty into confidence, doubt into resolve. But outside Zenith's walls, the storm was only beginning. The days that followed were a whirlwind of speculation, debate, and intrigue. Tech blogs published lengthy opinion pieces analyzing James's decision. Industry insiders claimed to have exclusive details about the rejected proposal, though their accounts often contradicted one another. Talk shows and podcasts devoted entire episodes to the topic, with experts arguing over whether Zenith's bold move would pay off or lead to its downfall. Amid the chaos, one figure remained notably silent: Elon Musk. While he was known for his active presence on social media and his tendency to comment on controversies, he had yet to acknowledge James's decision publicly. This silence only fueled speculation. Was Musk biding his time? Was he planning a counter-offer? Or was he simply moving on, leaving Zenith to deal with the fallout? James, for his part, wasn't concerned with Musk's reaction. He had bigger things to focus on, namely, Zenith's upcoming product launch. Months of hard work and innovation had gone into developing their latest AI-powered solution, and James was determined to make it a success. The launch would be a defining moment for the company, proving once and for all that Zenith didn't need Musk or anyone else to thrive. As the launch date approached, the pressure intensified. Investors grew antsy, their confidence shaken by the media frenzy. Some board members expressed doubts about James's leadership, quietly suggesting that he should reconsider his stance on Musk. But James stood firm, his resolve unshaken. He spent long hours in the office, meeting with his teams, refining strategies, and reviewing every detail of the launch. He knew that all eyes were on Zenith, waiting to see if the company would rise or falter. And James was determined to rise. The day of the launch arrived, and the atmosphere at Zenith was electric. The event was being live-streamed to millions of viewers worldwide, and the company's headquarters buzzed with anticipation. Employees, reporters, and invited guests filled the grand auditorium, while thousands more watched from satellite offices and remote locations. James took the stage to thunderous applause. Dressed in a sleek black suit, he exuded confidence and charisma. As the applause died down, he began his presentation. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice ringing clear, "today is a milestone not just for Zenith, but for the future of technology. What we're unveiling today represents years of hard work, countless hours of innovation, and an unwavering commitment to our mission. This is more than a product, it's a promise. A promise that technology can be powerful, ethical, and transformative." He gestured to the massive screen behind him, which lit up with dynamic visuals showcasing Zenith's new AI system. The crowd gasped as the technology's capabilities were revealed: intelligent automation that could revolutionize industries, sustainable energy solutions that could power entire cities, and accessibility features that would empower people of all abilities. The presentation was a resounding success. By the time James concluded, the audience was on its feet, giving him a standing ovation. Social media erupted with praise, and news outlets hailed the launch as a game changer. Zenith stock prices soared, and the doubters were silenced. But the real surprise came later that evening. As James returned to his office to catch his breath, his assistant entered with a message. "You might want to see this," she said, handing him a tablet. On the screen was a tweet from Elon Musk. "Congratulations to James Carter and the team at Zenith on an incredible launch. The world needs more leaders like you, focused, principled, and unafraid to take risks. Excited to see where Zenith goes next. #innovation. James read the tweet twice, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. He didn't reply. There was no need. Musk's acknowledgement was validation enough. As the sun set over Silicon Valley, casting its golden glow across the city, James sat back in his chair, reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. He had faced doubts, challenges, and risks, but he had stayed true to his vision. And in the end, that was what made all the difference. Elon Musk was a name that carried weight. To some, he was a genius, a visionary who could make the impossible possible. To others, he was an enigma, a man whose ambitions often overshadowed reason. But one thing was certain: Musk was a force to be reckoned with. His name alone could open doors, rally investors, and command the attention of millions. So when news spread that James Carter had turned down Musk's proposal, it sent shockwaves through Zenith and the wider tech community. Most CEOs would have seized the opportunity, viewing it as a fast track to fame and fortune. But not James. He was different. He had his reasons, though few knew what they were. Inside the Zenith boardroom, the atmosphere was tense. The executives, usually confident and poised, now sat in uneasy silence. A sense of disbelief hung in the air, punctuated by occasional whispers. "It's career suicide," one executive finally muttered, shaking his head. "Who in their right mind says no to Elon Musk?" Another chimed in, her voice laced with frustration. "We're not just talking about a partnership. This could have put Zenith on the global map overnight. And James, he just walks away." At the head of the table, James sat quietly, listening to the murmurs around him. His face was calm, almost serene, but his mind was sharp and focused. He knew what his team was thinking, even if they didn't say it out loud. They thought he was being reckless, stubborn, maybe even arrogant. But James wasn't fazed. He had faced criticism before, and he would face it again. "Are we even allowed to ask why?" one executive finally said, breaking the silence. James looked up, his gaze steady. "You can ask," he said simply. The room waited, anticipating an explanation. But James said nothing more. He wasn't ready to share his reasons, not yet. The silence stretched on, heavy and uncomfortable. One by one, the executives began to look away, realizing they wouldn't get the answers they wanted. After the meeting ended, the tension lingered. As the executives filed out, their whispered conversations filled the hallways. "He's hiding something," one said. "There's no other explanation." Another nodded. "It's either that or he's lost his mind. Either way, this could ruin us." But James didn't care about the rumors or the judgment. He was focused on the bigger picture. Musk's proposal, while tempting, had come with conditions that would have forced Zenith to compromise its core values. And to James, no deal was worth that price. Over the next few days, the tension grew. Inside Zenith, employees speculated wildly, each theory more outlandish than the last. Outside the company, the media frenzy showed no signs of slowing down. Journalists camped outside Zenith's headquarters, hoping to catch a glimpse of James or anyone who could shed light on the situation. Elon Musk doesn't take rejection lightly, one tech blogger wrote. If James Carter thought he could turn down Musk and walk away unscathed, he's in for a rude awakening. The pressure was mounting, and James felt it. But instead of backing down, he doubled down. He spent long hours in his office, reviewing plans, meeting with his teams, and ensuring that Zenith stayed on track. One evening, as James was reviewing some documents, his assistant entered with a concerned expression. "Mr. Carter," she began hesitantly, "I think you should see this." She handed him a tablet, and James's eyes scanned the screen. It was an article, its headline bold and accusatory. "Zenith's risky gamble, can James Carter survive the fallout?" The article went on to detail the potential consequences of James's decision, from investor doubts to market instability. It quoted unnamed sources close to the company, who claimed that James's leadership was under scrutiny. James set the tablet down, his expression unreadable. "Let them write what they want," he said finally. "We'll prove them wrong." But the real challenge wasn't the media, it was the growing rift within Zenith itself. Behind closed doors, some of the company's top executives began to question James's leadership more openly. Private meetings were held, and hushed conversations became commonplace. One evening, a group of senior executives gathered in a conference room. The blinds were drawn, and the atmosphere was heavy with tension. "We can't just sit by and let this happen," one executive said, his voice low but firm. "James is risking everything we built. If this backfires, Zenith won't recover." Another nodded in agreement. "We need to intervene. If he won't listen to reason, we have to take matters into our own hands." The group exchanged uneasy glances. They all respected James, he was the reason Zenith existed in the first place. But now, that respect was being tested. "What do you suggest?" one finally asked. The room fell silent. No one wanted to be the first to say it, but the implication was clear: if James wouldn't change course, they might have to consider replacing him. Meanwhile, James was aware of the growing dissent, though he chose not to confront it directly. He knew his decision had rattled people, and he understood their concerns. But he also knew that leadership wasn't about being liked, it was about doing what was right, even when it wasn't popular. Still, the tension weighed on him. Late one night, long after most employees had gone home, James stood alone in the office, staring out at the city lights. He felt the weight of the company on his shoulders, the pressure of expectations, the sting of doubt. But as he stood there, he reminded himself of why he had founded Zenith in the first place. It wasn't for fame or fortune. It was to create something meaningful, something that could make a difference. And if staying true to that vision meant facing criticism, so be it. The breaking point came a week later. During a routine board meeting, one of the directors finally spoke up. "James," she began cautiously, "we need to talk about the Musk proposal." James looked up, his expression calm but guarded. "What about it?" The director hesitated before continuing. "We respect your decision, but the board has concerns. This partnership could have been a turning point for Zenith. Without it, we're facing a lot of uncertainty." Another director chimed in. "Investors are nervous. The media's questioning our leadership. We need to reassure them, and right now, that means reconsidering Musk's offer." James listened patiently, his hands folded on the table. When they finished, he took a deep breath. "I understand your concerns," he said, his voice steady. "But let me be clear, my decision hasn't changed. Musk's offer came with conditions that would have compromised everything we stand for. I won't sacrifice our values for short-term gains." The room was silent, the tension palpable. "Then what's your plan?" one director asked pointedly. "Because right now, it feels like we're flying blind." James leaned forward, his gaze sharp. My plan is to prove to the world and to all of you that Zenith doesn't need Musk to succeed. We've built this company from the ground up, and we'll continue to grow on our terms. Trust me. We're on the right path. The directors exchanged uncertain glances, but no one challenged him further. As the meeting ended, James felt a renewed sense of determination. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to face whatever challenges came his way. Because in the end, he wasn't just fighting for Zenith, he was fighting for a vision. A vision of a company that stood for something greater than profits or prestige. And he wasn't about to let anyone take that away. In the days following the board meeting, James's resolve remained firm, but the cracks within Zenith grew wider. The murmurs of discontent were no longer confined to hushed conversations behind closed doors. The tension was spilling over, affecting morale and productivity. Employees who once felt inspired by James's vision now found themselves questioning his judgment. For James, it was a balancing act. On one hand, he had to manage the growing dissent within his leadership team. On the other, he had to contend with the external pressures that showed no signs of easing. Elon Musk, never one to shy away from controversy, was also not a man to be ignored. When asked about Zenith's rejection during a high-profile interview, Musk's response was as calculated as it was pointed. Well, Musk began, leaning back in his chair with that trademark smirk, not everyone is ready to innovate at the level we operate. It's unfortunate, but not surprising. Some people just don't see the bigger picture. The comment was subtle, but its impact was seismic. Within hours, social media exploded with speculation. Was Musk implying that James Carter was short-sighted? That Zenith was falling behind? The narrative began to shift, painting James as an outlier in an industry that valued bold, sometimes risky moves. Headlines splashed across major outlets. Zenith's gamble, a bold stand or a costly mistake. James Carter snubs Musk, visionary or villain. Investors were growing restless. Emails flooded the inboxes of Zenith's public relations team, demanding explanations and reassurances. Stock prices wavered, reflecting the market's uncertainty. Despite the growing noise, James refused to be rattled. He stayed focused, working late into the night to fine-tune Zenith's upcoming projects. He believed in the strength of their vision and the capabilities of their team. But belief alone wouldn't be enough to sway the doubters. While the external world buzzed with speculation, the real storm was brewing within Zenith's walls. One evening, a small but influential group of executives gathered for a private meeting. They met not in the corporate boardroom, but in the home of Daniel Hayes, Zenith's co. The setting was intentional, a space away from the prying eyes and ears of the office. We need to address the elephant in the room, Daniel began, his tone grave. James is losing control. If we don't act, this company could collapse. Some nodded in agreement, while others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Let's not forget what James has done for Zenith, one executive interjected. We wouldn't even be here without him. True, Daniel acknowledged, but we can't let loyalty blind us to reality. Turning down Musk's offer wasn't just risky, it was reckless. And now, we're all paying the price. The group debated late into the night, weighing their options. Replacing James was a drastic step, but some believed it might be the only way to steer the company back on course. Unbeknownst to his critics, James was acutely aware of the growing opposition. He could feel the shift in the air, the sidelong glances during meetings, the hesitations in conversations, the whispered words that stopped when he entered a room. Late one night, as he worked in his office, James's assistant entered with a worried expression. James, she began hesitantly, I think you should know, some of the executives have been meeting without you. James looked up from his desk, his expression calm but curious. What kind of meetings? I'm not sure, she admitted. But they're happening after hours, and they're being careful. James leaned back in his chair, considering her words. He wasn't surprised. Leadership often came with its share of dissent. Still, the knowledge that his own team might be plotting against him was a bitter pill to swallow. "Thank you for telling me," he said finally. "I'll handle it." The tension within Zenith reached a breaking point during a quarterly shareholder meeting. As James stood at the podium, presenting the company's progress and future plans, the skepticism in the room was palpable. When the floor opened for questions, one shareholder stood up, his expression a mix of frustration and disbelief. "Mr. Carter," he began, his voice echoing in the large conference hall, "can you explain why you rejected Elon Musk's proposal? From where we stand, it seems like a missed opportunity, one that's costing us dearly." James took a deep breath, his gaze steady as he addressed the room. "Thank you for your question," he began. "I understand your concerns, and I don't take them lightly. Turning down Mr. Musk's proposal wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one. At Zenith, we believe in innovation that aligns with our values. Musk's offer, while generous, came with conditions that would have compromised those values." The room murmured with mixed reactions. Some nodded in agreement, while others looked unconvinced. Another shareholder stood. "But what about the fallout? The media backlash, the investor doubts? Can Zenith afford to take this kind of hit?" James met the man's gaze. "Short-term setbacks are part of any bold decision. But I'm confident in our long-term vision. Zenith was built on integrity, and that's not something we're willing to sacrifice." The tension in the room was thick, but James held his ground. He knew he couldn't please everyone, but he wasn't about to compromise his principles for the sake of approval. As the days turned into weeks, the fallout continued. More executives voiced their doubts, and whispers of a potential leadership change grew louder. But James, ever resolute, refused to waver. He doubled down on Zenith's projects, rallying his core team and pushing forward with a bold new initiative that he believed would redefine the company's future. The stakes were higher than ever, and the path ahead was uncertain. But James was determined to prove that Zenith's strength didn't come from external partnerships or flashy headlines, it came from within. Days turned into weeks, and the pressure on James mounted. The rejection of Elon Musk's proposal had snowballed into something far bigger than anyone anticipated. What began as a bold statement about Zenith's independence had evolved into a relentless barrage of skepticism from all sides. News outlets dissected James's decision, speculating on his motives and casting doubt on his leadership. Headlines like "The Man Who Said No to Musk, Visionary or Fool," dominated the business section of every major publication. Even morning talk shows, where celebrity gossip usually reigned supreme, found space to critique Zenith's embattled CEO. Within the company, the cracks in the foundation grew wider. The same employees who once revered James now hesitated to meet his gaze in the hallways. Executives who used to stand by his side began to drift, their loyalty eroded by whispers of instability and murmurs of dissent. But while the world doubted him, James remained focused. He worked late into the night, long after the lights in the Zenith building had dimmed. His office, once a space for collaboration and brainstorming, now became a sanctuary of solitude. Sitting at his desk, James would pull out his leather-bound journal. The worn edges and ink-stained pages held his thoughts, plans, and ideas, pieces of a puzzle that no one else could yet see. Each scribbled note was a step closer to a vision he hadn't shared with anyone, not even his closest allies. James knew the risks of keeping his plan to himself. Silence in the face of mounting pressure could be mistaken for weakness, and in the ruthless world of tech, perception was everything. But James also understood that revealing his strategy too soon could jeopardize its success. His plan wasn't just about competing with Musk, it was about redefining what Zenith stood for. Musk's proposal had been tempting, no one could deny the allure of partnering with one of the most influential figures in the industry. But James saw something others didn't, the hidden costs of such an alliance. Short-term gains aren't worth long-term compromise, James wrote in his journal one evening. Our strength lies in what makes us different, not in following someone else's path. While others fixated on the fallout, James quietly gathered his resources. He met with select members of his team, those he trusted implicitly, and began delegating tasks. Each assignment was part of a larger, cohesive strategy, though none of his colleagues could see the full picture. "Why are we focusing on this now?" one of his engineers asked during a late-night meeting. James smiled faintly. "Because when the time comes, we need to be ready. Trust me, this will all make sense soon." Behind the scenes, Zenith was transforming. While the media and investors focused on the controversy surrounding Musk, James redirected the company's energy into a secretive project codenamed Peregrine. The idea had been simmering in James's mind for years, but the fallout from Musk's proposal rejection had created the perfect moment to bring it to life. Peregrine wasn't just a product, it was a statement, a bold declaration of Zenith's capabilities and its refusal to follow the industry's status quo. James handpicked a small, dedicated team to work on Peregrine. These individuals weren't necessarily the most senior or the most experienced, but they were the ones who shared his vision. "Why us?" one young programmer asked during their first meeting. "Because you think differently," James replied simply. "And that's exactly what we need." The team worked in secrecy, operating out of a secure, unmarked wing of Zenith's headquarters. Security protocols were tightened, and access was granted only to those directly involved in the project. To the rest of the company and the world, Peregrine didn't exist. As Peregrine progressed, the opposition James faced grew fiercer. The media continued to paint him as a CEO on the brink of collapse, and investors demanded answers he wasn't ready to give. During one particularly tense board meeting, Daniel Hayes, Zenith's coup, confronted James directly. "James, this silence is killing us," Daniel said, his tone sharp. "Investors are pulling out, the media is tearing us apart, and our own employees are losing faith. We need to give them something, anything, to show that we're still in control." James met Daniel's gaze calmly. "I understand the frustration," he said. "But trust me, revealing our hand too soon will do more harm than good. Sometimes, patience is the best strategy." "Patience," another board member interjected. "We're hemorrhaging credibility, and you're asking us to wait? What exactly are we waiting for?" James's expression didn't waver. "We're waiting for the right moment," he said firmly. "And when that moment comes, everything will make sense." The room fell silent, but the tension was palpable. Despite the mounting doubts, James's quiet confidence began to resonate with a select few. As the weeks passed, hints of Peregrine began to surface, small, seemingly unrelated breakthroughs that caught the attention of Zenith's employees and the industry at large. A groundbreaking patent filed under Zenith's name. A cryptic tweet from a well-respected engineer hinting at something revolutionary. A sudden increase in recruitment for highly specialized roles. These breadcrumbs were enough to spark curiosity, though no one could piece them together. Within Zenith, those working on Peregrine began to see glimpses of James's vision. The project was unlike anything they had worked on before, ambitious, innovative, and deeply aligned with Zenith's core values. One evening, as the team gathered for a progress update, James addressed them with a rare sense of vulnerability. "I know this hasn't been easy," he said, his voice steady but sincere. "But what we're building here isn't just a product. It's a message. A message that Zenith stands for something bigger than profits or partnerships. And when the world sees what we've created, they'll understand why we took this path." While the Peregrine team grew more invested in their work, the divide within Zenith's leadership widened. Daniel Hayes and his allies pushed harder for transparency, arguing that James's secrecy was putting the entire company at risk. One evening, Daniel confronted James in his office. "James, this can't go on," Daniel said, his frustration evident. "You're asking everyone to trust you without giving us a reason to." If you don't start sharing details, you're going to lose more than just the board's support, you're going to lose this company. James looked up from his desk, his expression calm but resolute. I appreciate your concern, Daniel, he said. But sometimes, leadership means making decisions that others don't understand. This is one of those times. Daniel shook his head, exasperated. And what if you're wrong? What if this gamble doesn't pay off? James's gaze didn't waver. Then I'll take responsibility. But I believe in what we're doing. And I'm willing to stake everything on it. As the weeks passed, small signs of a shift began to emerge. Employees who had once expressed doubt noticed subtle changes around the office. There was a buzz in the air, an energy that felt almost electric. Whispers circulated among staff about mysterious late-night meetings and new hires with impressive but unusual skill sets. James's top engineers, usually approachable, became more tight-lipped. Conversations ended abruptly when others walked into the room. I heard they're working on something revolutionary, one employee murmured in the break room. Revolutionary or reckless, another replied. James is playing with fire. Rejecting Musk and then going dark like this, it's not a good look. But not everyone shared the skepticism. For those who had worked closely with James in the past, his behavior was not entirely unexpected. This is classic James, said Sarah, a senior designer who had been with Zenith since its early days. He always moves in silence before making a big move. Just wait, he's got something up his sleeve. Still, for many, waiting wasn't easy. The company's stock price continued to dip, and the pressure from external stakeholders only intensified. Every board meeting grew more contentious, with James standing alone against a tide of skepticism. One late evening, James stood by the large window in his office, gazing out at the city lights. His leather journal lay open on his desk, its pages filled with notes, diagrams, and reminders of the bigger picture. He thought about the immense responsibility resting on his shoulders. Rejecting Elon Musk hadn't just been a business decision, it had been a statement about who Zenith was and what it stood for. But making a statement came with consequences, and James was feeling the weight of every one of them. His phone buzzed on the desk, breaking his thoughts. It was a message from his younger brother, Ethan, who rarely texted unless something was important. Ethan, saw another article about you today. They're calling you crazy now. Hope you're holding up. James smiled faintly. Ethan had always been blunt, but there was an undertone of concern in his message. James replied, crazy now. Genius later. Isn't that how it always goes? The response was quick, yeah, but let's make sure there's a later. You know I'm rooting for you. The exchange reminded James of why he was doing this, not for the headlines or the applause, but for the people who believed in him, even when it wasn't easy. Inside the secure wing of Zenith's headquarters, the Peregrine team was making significant strides. The project was unlike anything they had ever worked on, part cutting-edge technology, part ambitious design, and part bold philosophy. One of the breakthroughs came late one Friday night, as the team huddled around a prototype. They had been troubleshooting a critical issue for days, and exhaustion was beginning to set in. Maybe we're overthinking it, Maria, one of the engineers, suggested. James, who had joined the session to observe, spoke up. What's the simplest solution? Forget perfection for a moment. What's the one thing that would make this work? The team paused, and then Daniel, a young programmer, began sketching an idea on the whiteboard. The room fell silent as the others watched him work. That might actually work, Maria said, her exhaustion replaced by excitement. Within hours, the team had implemented the change. When the prototype functioned flawlessly during the next test, a wave of relief and exhilaration swept through the room. James didn't celebrate outwardly, but the pride in his eyes was unmistakable. This is why I believe in all of you, he said. This is what makes Zenith different. While the Peregrine team celebrated their progress, tensions within Zenith's leadership reached a boiling point. The board of directors was growing impatient, and Daniel Hayes, the coup, became increasingly vocal in his opposition to James's secrecy. "We can't keep operating like this," Daniel said during a heated meeting. "The company is bleeding money, and our reputation is on the line. Investors are demanding answers. If we don't give them something soon, they'll walk away." James listened calmly, his hands folded on the table. "I understand the urgency," he said. "But revealing our plans prematurely could jeopardize everything we're working on." Daniel leaned forward, his frustration evident. "And what exactly are we working on, James? You've asked us to trust you, but trust goes both ways. At some point, you have to give us a reason to believe in this vision of yours." James met Daniel's gaze. "You'll have your reason soon," he said. "But until then, I need you to trust that I'm doing what's best for Zenith." The tension in the room was palpable. While some board members sided with James, others were clearly aligned with Daniel. As the meeting ended, James felt the weight of their doubts. But he also knew that leadership meant making difficult decisions even when they were unpopular. Amid the growing tension, James found support in an unlikely place. Sarah, the senior designer who had spoken up in the break room, approached him after one of the more contentious board meetings. "I know things are rough right now," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "But I've been here long enough to know that you don't take risks lightly. If you need help, I'm here." James appreciated her offer, but he knew the risks of bringing more people into the fold. Still, Sarah's loyalty was a reminder that not everyone had lost faith. "Thank you, Sarah," he said. "Your support means more than you know." As the days passed, James began to notice small acts of loyalty from others within the company. A junior engineer who stayed late to perfect a key component. A marketing associate who defended James's leadership during a company-wide meeting. These moments, though small, reinforced James's belief that Zenith's greatest strength wasn't its technology or its products, it was its people. As Peregrine neared completion, James felt a mix of anticipation and trepidation. The project was everything he had envisioned, but unveiling it to the world would be a gamble. One evening, as he reviewed the final plans in his office, Maria from the Peregrine team knocked on the door. "Mind if I join you for a moment?" she asked. James nodded, gesturing for her to take a seat. "I just wanted to say thank you," Maria said. "For believing in us, even when it felt like the rest of the world didn't." James smiled. "You're the reason I believe in this company, Maria. It's people like you who make all of this worth it." As Maria left, James felt a renewed sense of purpose. The road had been long and fraught with challenges, but he knew that the unveiling of Peregrine would mark the beginning of something extraordinary. Months passed, but the buzz around Zenith hadn't faded. If anything, it grew louder. Industry analysts, media outlets, and competitors were desperate for answers. What was James Carter working on? Why had he turned down Elon Musk? The questions hung in the air, fueling a frenzy of speculation. Zenith's stock, once battered by doubt, had started to stabilize. Subtle hints of confidence from within the company piqued curiosity, but no one outside Zenith knew exactly what was happening behind those sleek, reflective walls. James, ever the strategist, had timed everything perfectly. The whispers about Peregrine were just enough to keep the industry guessing. Invitations to Zenith's first major reveal event in years began circulating, marked with the cryptic tagline, "The Future, Redefined." The event took place at Zenith's state-of-the-art auditorium, its grand design a reflection of the company's ambition. Journalists, tech influencers, and industry leaders filled the seats, their anticipation almost tangible. A low hum of conversation buzzed through the crowd. Some wondered if James would address the rumors about his fallout with Musk. Others speculated about the mysterious project that had consumed Zenith for so long. The stage lights dimmed, and a single spotlight illuminated the podium. James Carter stepped forward, his expression calm and confident. He was dressed simply in a dark suit, but there was a quiet authority in his presence that commanded attention. "Good morning, everyone," he began, his voice steady. "Today marks a turning point not just for Zenith, but for technology as a whole." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "For the past year, we've worked tirelessly on something that many said was impossible. We faced doubt, skepticism, and, at times, outright hostility. But through it all, we remained focused on one goal: to create something that would change the way we live and work. Today, I'm proud to introduce you to Peregrine." As the auditorium darkened, a massive screen behind James came to life. The audience watched in awe as sleek visuals showcased Peregrine, a revolutionary piece of technology that combined AI, augmented reality, and adaptive design in a way no one had ever seen before. "Peregrine isn't just a product," James explained. "It's a platform. It learns from you, adapts to your needs, and evolves with you. Whether you're designing a skyscraper, performing remote surgery, or exploring virtual worlds, Peregrine will be your ultimate tool." The presentation was mesmerizing. Stunning animations demonstrated Peregrine's capabilities: architects reshaping blueprints with simple gestures, surgeons using augmented reality to enhance precision, and students exploring interactive simulations that brought history and science to life. The room was silent, captivated by the possibilities. But James wasn't done. "For months, people have questioned why Zenith declined Elon Musk's proposal," he said, his tone steady but deliberate. "They called it arrogance, recklessness, even career suicide. Today, I want to address that." The audience leaned forward, their curiosity at its peak. James gestured toward the screen, which shifted to a live video feed. The room gasped as Elon Musk's unmistakable face appeared, smiling broadly. "Good morning, everyone," Musk said, his voice echoing through the auditorium. "I'm here to set the record straight. James Carter didn't reject my offer because he lacked vision. He rejected it because he had a better one." The crowd erupted into murmurs, stunned by the revelation. Musk continued, "When James first shared his idea for Peregrine, I knew it wasn't just bold, it was revolutionary. So, rather than compete, we decided to collaborate. I'm proud to announce that Tesla and SpaceX will be integrating Peregrine across our operations, setting a new standard for innovation." Applause thundered through the auditorium as the significance of Musk's words sank in. This wasn't just a product launch, it was a paradigm shift. James let the applause wash over him for a moment before speaking again. "For those who doubted Zenith, let this serve as a reminder: true progress isn't about following the crowd. It's about leading the way." He turned back to the screen. "Elon, thank you for believing in Peregrine. Together, we're going to redefine what's possible." Musk grinned. "The pleasure's mine, James. Let's change the world." As the event continued, attendees were given hands-on demonstrations of Peregrine. The excitement in the room was infectious. Journalists scrambled to capture every detail, and social media lit up with praise for Zenith's audacity and brilliance. Backstage, James allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. Maria and Daniel from the Peregrine team approached him, their expressions a mix of exhaustion and pride. "You did it," Maria said simply. "No," James replied, his voice filled with gratitude. "We did it." The ripple effects of the reveal were immediate. Headlines declared Peregrine as the dawn of a new era, and Zenith's stock price soared to record highs. Critics who had once mocked James's decision to turn down Musk were now forced to eat their words. Analysts praised his vision and courage, calling him one of the most innovative leaders of his generation. But for James, the real victory wasn't the accolades or the soaring stock price. It was the knowledge that Zenith had stayed true to its values. They hadn't compromised their vision for short-term gain. Instead, they had proven that integrity and innovation could go hand in hand. As the event came to a close, James returned to the stage for one final message. Peregrine is more than a product, it's a statement about what's possible when we refuse to settle for less. It's a reminder that the greatest breakthroughs come from challenging the status quo. He looked out at the audience, his gaze steady and confident. To those who doubted us, thank you. Your skepticism fueled our determination. And to those who believed, this is just the beginning. The room erupted into applause once more as James stepped off the stage, leaving the world to ponder what Zenith might achieve next. The applause was deafening, but James remained composed, a slight smile on his lips. The moment wasn't about personal vindication, it was about proving that Zenith could stand shoulder to shoulder with the giants of the tech world and, in some ways, surpass them. As the live feed ended, the screen behind James displayed the bold, glowing logo of Peregrine. Many of you might wonder, James began, his voice cutting through the lingering murmurs of the crowd, what makes Peregrine different from the tools you already know? After all, innovation is often just an iteration, a slightly faster device, a slightly smarter algorithm. But Peregrine is not an iteration. It's a revolution. The screen flickered to life again, showing live demonstrations of Peregrine being used in real time. A construction site appeared, where engineers in hard hats interacted with virtual models of the building they were designing. With simple gestures, they modified the structure, seamlessly testing scenarios for strength, aesthetics, and sustainability. The scene shifted to a hospital. A surgeon used Peregrine to overlay patient data and visual guides directly onto the operating field, enhancing precision and reducing risks. Then came an artist's studio, where a painter used augmented reality to layer digital brush strokes over a real canvas, creating hybrid works of art that merged the physical and the virtual. Each demonstration brought gasps and murmurs from the audience. But James wasn't finished. Everything you've seen so far is only the beginning, he said, stepping away from the podium and closer to the audience. What truly sets Peregrine apart is its intelligence. This isn't just a tool, it's a collaborator. An ally. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. In a world increasingly dominated by artificial intelligence, the challenge isn't creating smarter machines. It's creating machines that empower humans, not replace them. That's where Peregrine shines. It doesn't just follow commands, it learns from you, adapts to you, and grows with you. This is technology that works for you, not the other way around. A spotlight shifted to the side of the stage, where a sleek device stood on a pedestal. It was the physical embodiment of Peregrine, compact and elegant, with an intuitive interface that seemed to blend seamlessly into its design. It's portable, intuitive, and infinitely scalable, James explained. Whether you're running a billion-dollar enterprise or a one-person startup, Peregrine becomes your partner in success. Backstage, a few reporters were frantically exchanging notes, trying to piece together the story behind Elon Musk's unexpected appearance. Wasn't he supposed to be Zenith's rival? Hadn't James rejected his offer just a year ago? James, sensing the curiosity in the room, addressed the unspoken question. When I first shared the concept of Peregrine with my team, we knew it would take something extraordinary to bring it to life. We also knew it would take collaboration. Visionaries like Elon Musk saw the potential in what we were building and understood that sometimes, the best way to lead is to support others. The crowd hung on every word. Elon didn't just endorse Peregrine, James continued. He challenged us to think bigger. He brought his team's expertise, his resources, and, most importantly, his belief that no idea is too bold if it's built on the foundation of progress and purpose. The audience erupted into applause once more, but James wasn't done. However, James said, his tone shifting to something more serious, partnership doesn't mean compromise. Zenith could have taken the easy route. We could have merged our vision with others, diluted our identity, and chased short-term gains. But we didn't. He stepped forward, his voice rising with conviction. We chose the hard path because that's what innovation demands. We stood firm because we believed that what we were building deserved to exist in its purest form. And today, as I look at all of you, I know we made the right choice. The crowd was silent, captivated by his passion. James raised his hand, and the screen behind him displayed a live ticker showing Zenith stock price skyrocketing. The audience gasped. The world was watching, and the message was clear: Zenith wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. As the presentation continued, more details about Peregrine emerged. Developers spoke about the countless hours spent fine-tuning its algorithms. Designers shared how they balanced form and function to create a device that felt intuitive to users. But the most compelling moments came from early adopters, those who had secretly tested Peregrine in various industries. A teacher described how it transformed her classroom, engaging students in ways she never thought possible. A farmer shared how it optimized his operations, reducing waste and increasing yield. A small business owner explained how Peregrine gave her the tools to compete with larger corporations. Each story was a testament to the transformative power of innovation. As the event drew to a close, James took a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought him here. He thought of the sleepless nights, the relentless skepticism, and the weight of leading a team through uncharted territory. But he also thought of the moments of triumph, the breakthroughs, the camaraderie, and the unwavering belief that Zenith could achieve something extraordinary. Standing on that stage, bathed in the glow of 1,000 cameras, James felt a profound sense of gratitude. "This isn't just my victory," he said, his voice tinged with emotion. "It's ours. To every engineer, designer, strategist, and dreamer who poured their heart into Peregrine, thank you. You proved that the impossible is just the starting line." The audience rose to their feet, their applause echoing through the auditorium. In the weeks that followed, Peregrine became the talk of the tech world. Competitors scrambled to catch up, while industry leaders hailed Zenith's courage and vision. More than a product, Peregrine had become a symbol, a reminder that innovation isn't about following trends. It's about redefining them. As for James, he remained focused on the future. The success of Peregrine was just the beginning. With Zenith's renewed momentum, he was determined to tackle even greater challenges, proving once again that the boldest moves often yield the biggest rewards. The aftermath of Zenith's groundbreaking event rippled throughout the tech world like a thunderstorm. What had begun as a storm of skepticism surrounding James Carter's decision to reject Elon Musk's offer had transformed into a fierce wind of admiration and respect. Zenith's rise wasn't just a corporate success, it was a story of resilience, vision, and the relentless pursuit of something greater. In the weeks following the reveal of Peregrine, it became clear that James Carter had made more than just a business decision, he had made a statement. Elon Musk, the tech giant whose presence in the industry was nearly as powerful as the forces of nature, publicly admitted something he rarely did. On a live broadcast with CNBC, Musk spoke candidly about his relationship with James. "James saw what I couldn't. That's true innovation," Musk confessed, his voice steady but sincere. "I offered him a chance to join forces with Tesla, but he had a better vision, one that would change the game for everyone. Peregrine isn't just a tool. It's the future, and James was smart enough to see that first." It was a stunning admission. Musk's usual confidence was present, but there was something new in his words: respect. The same man who was known for his unyielding, sometimes stubborn approach had publicly acknowledged that James's vision was ahead of the curve. The internet exploded with reaction. Some were shocked by Musk's humility, while others marveled at the fact that James had been able to not only turn down Musk's offer but to push forward with a vision that left even the great Elon Musk in awe. Zenith's stock price had been steadily climbing since the reveal, but now, with Musk's endorsement and the tech world's attention fully on Peregrine, the company's shares went into a rapid upward spiral. Within a month, Zenith's stock doubled. Analysts praised the company's boldness, calling it one of the greatest strategic moves in tech history. What had once been a risky gamble now seemed like pure genius. James Carter wasn't just a CEO, he was a visionary, a leader who had set a new course for the future of technology. The media buzzed with headlines like "Zenith sets new industry standard," "James Carter's gamble pays off in big way," and "From rejecting Musk to redefining innovation." Every major outlet carried the story, not just about the Peregrine reveal, but about the larger implications of James's leadership. Zenith wasn't just playing the game anymore, they were rewriting the rules. For James, the most satisfying part of all this wasn't the money, the stock prices, or even the accolades. It was the respect he had earned, respect that had been lacking only months ago. As he walked through the hallways of Zenith, he noticed something different. The employees who once hesitated to speak up in meetings now approached him with new energy. His leadership style, which had been questioned by many, was now seen as bold and visionary. They respected him not only for his intellect but for his courage in the face of doubt. Maria, his longtime friend and colleague, stopped him one afternoon in the corridor. "You did it," she said with a proud smile. "You really did it?" James nodded, but the weight of the success felt more personal than professional. "We did it, Maria. Everyone here." She raised an eyebrow, a playful smile curling on her lips. "And how about that other guy? The one you rejected?" James's face softened. "We all make choices. Not every one of them will be understood right away, but I had to trust my instincts. Sometimes, the hardest decisions are the ones that bring the most clarity." Maria nodded. "That's what makes you different. You didn't back down when everyone said you should. And now the world sees it." James didn't need to say more. He had known that he wasn't just fighting for Zenith, he was fighting for a future he believed in. And now, that future was taking shape before his eyes. It wasn't just the critics of James who now had to eat their words, it was the entire narrative about Zenith's viability. Before the Peregrine reveal, analysts had lined up to call Zenith a failed project, a company on the brink of collapse. But with every passing day, those same analysts were forced to rethink their conclusions. News outlets that had once written scathing articles about James's decision to reject Musk now covered the rise of Zenith as a model for resilience. One particular voice in the media that had been loudest in doubting James's leadership was financial analyst Tom Richards. For months, Richards had been vocal in his belief that Zenith was doomed, even claiming on several occasions that James's arrogance in turning down Musk would lead to the company's downfall. Richards's prediction had aged poorly, and the pressure to backpedal had mounted. In a live interview with CNBC, Richards was asked about his previous predictions regarding Zenith. His discomfort was evident. "Well, Richards began, his voice trailing off. "I think we all missed the mark there." The interviewer pressed, "Do you regret your comments about James Carter and Zenith?" Richards hesitated before admitting, "I do. I misjudged him. And I think that's the lesson here, sometimes, the true visionaries are the ones who take the road less traveled." The interview caused a wave of ridicule on social media. Critics quickly turned Richards into a cautionary tale, while James's name was mentioned in the same breath as legendary innovators like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. With Peregrine leading the charge, Zenith quickly established itself as a dominant force in the tech world. James was invited to speak at global conferences, offering keynote addresses about the future of technology, leadership, and innovation. His talks weren't just about Peregrine, they were about the mindset that had driven its creation. James spoke about embracing failure as a learning opportunity, the importance of trusting one's instincts, and the courage it takes to say no to conventional wisdom. His words inspired countless startups and entrepreneurs, many of whom had watched Zenith's rise with admiration. It wasn't long before James was named one of Time magazine's most influential people in tech. His journey from the depths of doubt to the heights of success was now a blueprint for how to face adversity head-on and come out victorious. While James's success was evident, some wondered if he would ever confront Elon Musk directly. After all, it had been Musk's offer that James had turned down so decisively. Would there be a moment when James would take the stage and publicly remind Musk of his rejection? But James surprised everyone. Instead of taking a victory lap at Musk's expense, James reached out to Musk privately. The two had a long conversation about Peregrine and the broader implications of innovation. James's message was simple: you were right about one thing. We're both trying to change the world. Let's make sure we do it together. Musk, ever the enigmatic figure, responded with a simple but powerful message of his own: I've always said, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. You've proven that. Let's talk about the next chapter. And so, the two tech giants who had once stood at odds now found common ground. The future of technology wasn't about one company or one leader, it was about collaboration. And in the end, that was perhaps the most significant victory of all. Zenith's meteoric rise was a testament to the power of vision, resilience, and innovation. James Carter had not only reclaimed his reputation but redefined what it meant to lead in the world of technology. His refusal to bow to convention, his courage to follow his own path, and his unwavering belief in the power of ideas had changed the tech landscape forever. And as for his critics, they had learned a hard lesson: sometimes, the most unconventional decisions are the ones that lead to the greatest rewards. In the end, James Carter's story wasn't just about success, it was about proving that true innovation comes from those who dare to dream beyond what others believe is possible. The journey that James Carter had taken was one that few would have dared to embark on. When the world expected him to follow the familiar path, he chose the road less traveled. When others saw an opportunity to join forces with the biggest name in the tech industry, James saw something bigger, something that had never been done before. It wasn't about riding the wave of success that Elon Musk had already created. It was about creating a wave of his own. And so, he did. There is a lesson here, one that rings true for anyone striving to make a difference: true leadership is not about following the crowd. It's about having the courage to chart your own course, even when others doubt you. It's about standing firm in your beliefs and trusting that, even if the world doesn't see your vision at first, it can still come to fruition. James had every reason to take the easy route. He could have accepted Musk's offer, made millions, and joined a tech giant. He could have followed the conventional path, done what was expected of him. But he didn't. Instead, he trusted in his instincts, in his vision. And that decision, as unconventional and risky as it seemed, would go on to change everything. Sometimes, the hardest decision you can make is to say no, to turn down what looks like the perfect opportunity. But James's story shows that saying no is sometimes the first step towards something far greater. By rejecting the safe choice, he opened the door to something revolutionary. Peregrine wasn't just a product, it was a testament to his belief that the future of technology wasn't about following in someone else's footsteps. It was about setting the pace. It was about creating a new standard, one that no one had even considered yet. In a world that often demands we conform, we must ask ourselves, what would happen if we dared to be different? What would happen if, instead of doing what everyone else is doing, we created something new? One of the most remarkable aspects of James's journey wasn't just his decision to reject Musk's offer, it was the patience he exhibited in waiting for the right moment. It would have been easy to panic, to give in to the pressure, to doubt himself when the world seemed to be against him. But James never wavered. He knew that sometimes, the best things in life take time. There's an unspoken power in patience. In a world where we expect immediate results, where success is measured by likes, shares, and instant gratification, we forget that great achievements often take time to come to fruition. James understood that. He knew that in order to truly innovate, to create something meaningful, he had to be willing to work in the shadows, to let the world question him, and to endure the discomfort of uncertainty. What he showed the world was that patience isn't just about waiting, it's about preparing. Every sleepless night, every line of code, every design sketch was a step towards something bigger than anyone could have imagined. True visionaries don't rush to the spotlight. They stay focused on the work. And when the time is right, they shine brighter than anyone could have predicted. James's path wasn't without its doubts. There were times when he questioned himself, times when he wondered if his vision was too big, too risky, or too out of reach. Everyone around him seemed to have an opinion. Many said he was making a mistake. Others questioned his sanity. Even his closest allies worried that he had bitten off more than he could chew. But James showed them, and he showed all of us, that doubt is not the enemy. Fear is not the enemy. The true enemy is not taking action when it matters most. The true enemy is not trusting in your own ability to push through the noise and uncertainty. Fear is a natural part of any journey. It's not something to be ashamed of or avoided. It's something to embrace. Fear can be the spark that drives you to take action, the force that propels you to succeed in spite of the odds. What mattered was that James didn't let fear control him. He recognized it, acknowledged it, and then kept moving forward. And by doing so, he proved that the only way to conquer fear is to take that first step, even when the path ahead seems unclear. There are two types of people in the world, those who make history, and those who follow it. James Carter's story is one of making history. It's easy to think that the most important thing in life is to fit in, to follow the crowd, and to do what's expected of you. But the truth is, the world doesn't change when we follow in someone else's footsteps. Change happens when someone dares to take the lead. When someone says, "I'll go first," when everyone else says, "You can't." James didn't just reject Musk's offer because it didn't make sense for Zenith. He rejected it because he understood that true innovation doesn't come from doing what's already been done. It comes from imagining a new future and having the guts to pursue it, even when no one else believes it's possible. In a world obsessed with trends, with the next big thing, and with fitting into molds created by others, true leaders are those who create their own path. They don't chase after success. They build it. And sometimes, that means saying no to the biggest opportunity when everyone else tells you it's the right thing to do. Sometimes, it means rejecting what is easy in favor of what is right. James's story is proof that, while the world may doubt you, while the critics may call you crazy, and while the pressure to conform may weigh heavily on your shoulders, you can still rise above it all. You can still follow your own path, trust in your own vision, and make history along the way. James Carter didn't just change the tech world. He changed how we view risk, failure, and success. He showed us that there is power in saying no. He reminded us that our most significant achievements often come when we decide to trust ourselves, when we step into the unknown and embrace the uncertainty. In the end, James's greatest victory wasn't just Peregrine or the rise of Zenith, it was the lasting impact he had on everyone who watched his journey. He inspired us to think differently, to challenge the status quo, and to believe in the impossible. James's story is a reminder that, sometimes, the hardest battles are the ones that come before the victory. And when the world doubts you, when they tell you it can't be done, that's when you know you're on the right path. We all have the power to make history. It starts with the courage to say no when everyone else is saying yes. It starts with the belief that the future is ours to create. And it starts with understanding that the most significant achievements in life come from those who dare to dream differently, even when the world doesn't understand. In a world obsessed with following trends, true leaders create their own path. And sometimes, saying no to the biggest opportunity is the first step toward making history. The legacy of James Carter is a reminder that we are all capable of more than we think. The most important thing is to trust ourselves, to stay patient, and to keep moving forward. Because, just like James, we all have the power to change the world. All it takes is the courage to take the first step, even when it's the hardest one.